record. Hold on a minute. Okay, so now we'll let Ulysses take it from here. Ulysses, would you like everyone to unmute themselves while you're speaking?
Okay. You know what? If we get a lot of feedback or something like that, sure. But I think we're okay right now. Can everybody hear me clearly?
Yes.
Excellent. Okay. Well, I am absolutely floored. I am so glad to be able to teach chess today. My name is Ulysses Tapley, as Gilda shared with you. And I've been playing chess probably since I was 13 years old. I learned the game pretty quickly, and I've been playing it ever since. Chess is a great game, and I'm glad you're here with us today. I want to just dive in and teach you this wonderful game. It started thousands of years ago, somewhere around 7 CE in northern India, they believe. The Gupta Empire was around at the time. So chess had its journey around the Silk Road. And so it's evolved a little bit. Rules have changed through the years, but they say over 645 million people play chess worldwide. So it is an exciting game if you love strategy, if you love planning, you're at the right place at the right time. So it is my profound pleasure to teach you this game. Now, I want you to relax. You can take a couple of deep breaths if you would like. I want you to relax. Chess is a game that you don't learn chess in just one day. Today's an introduction. So you don't learn the entire game in one day. And to master chess, it takes years. And I'm still on that journey to mastering chess. So it is a continual education with chess, okay? So Gilder has made me the host now, so I will share my screen and I will go into and we'll get started. Any questions before we go any further? I'm glad that everybody just came prepared with pens and pads. That's awesome. That's a big help. That's a big help. Okay. All right. Okay, here is what a chessboard looks like when the pieces are on the board. Okay, all right. So what I'm going to do is I will identify the pieces, share a little bit more with you. Chess is a two-player board game. Two-player board game. One opponent makes a move, then the other opponent makes a move. All right, so that's how it works. You make a move, and then your opponent makes a move. You make a move, your opponent makes a move, okay? All the pieces move differently. So I will go through piece identification right now. Notice these castles. They're called rooks, R-O-O-K. They're called rooks or castles. I've even heard them referred to as towers, all right? So those are your castles, right? And you get 16 pieces on each side. So if you're playing the white pieces, you have the same amount of pieces as the black pieces. Okay, so you get 16 pieces on each side. So next to the rook, it looks like a horse, right? We refer to it as a knight. That is the knight. Now, my younger students, the kids that I teach, they sometimes like to call it a horse. But we being adults, we refer to it as a knight. All right, that's the knight. Next to it is the bishop. Then we have the queen, the king, another bishop, knight, and rook. Okay. All right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take these pieces off the board and I'll show you how the pieces move. But the object of the game of chess, all right, the object of the game of chess, let's say you're playing the white pieces and I was playing the black pieces. The object is to go after and trap your opponent's king. The king is the most important piece on the board. The queen is the most powerful piece on the board. Okay? So that's the object of the game, to use your 16 pieces on this board, which is a battlefield, really, it's like a battlefield, on this board to go after your opponent's king. All right, so your opponent is trying to come after your king and you're trying to go after your opponent's king, and you want to trap him or her in check, which is checkmate. All right, so let's go a little further and I'll take these pieces off. All right.
Oh, isn't it? Yeah.
All right. Chess can be a really relaxing game.
Yeah.
And I think it's just great if you just want to keep sharp and give your brain a nice little workout. Has a lot of great benefits. Chess has a lot of great benefits. All right. Oh, and I forgot to tell you, I'm sorry. These little guys in the front that were in the front row are called pawns. They're called pawns. We'll get to them. Don't worry. They're called pawns. You get 8 pawns. All right. So what I want you to see is the board. Okay. All right. There's 8 rows of 8, 64 squares. You will probably use in a chess game every last one of these 64 squares. All right. Notice on this chessboard, you see letters and numbers. It's very simple. They're just they're coordinates, basically. They're coordinates, right? What we like to refer to them as chess notations. All right. So the reason why they have those letters and numbers is that you can always record a chess game. You can record your games. I have games that when I were probably like 15 years ago, I have 20 years ago, games that I have recorded. And what that helps you with is to improve your game, that after you play a game, you can go over your moves and your opponent's moves and you can see where you went wrong or where you went right, and you can improve on your game, okay? All right, so if you look at the bottom of the screen, you see A to H, right? Well, that is, the first column is the A file. They're called files, and they run vertically. The columns run vertically. That is the A file. And then you have the B file, right? and the C file, D file, E file, and so on. Okay. So if I was to highlight one of these squares, would you be able to tell me what's the name of that square?
D6.
D6. Excellent, Florence. That's D6. Just that simple, right? How about this one?
The F7. It's not
F7.
low.
You're absolutely right. How about that one?
8. I don't see any.
One.
8.
H1.
Eight.
All right. So from A all the way to the top, that's the A file, B file, C file. Now where the numbers are ranks, right? So this is the first rank, second rank, third rank, fourth rank, fifth rank, and so on. All right, so that's how you would know. You use the file and then the rank. So that's E4. All right, and that's how you would write it down on a piece of paper. E4. That means your pawn went to E4. But we'll get there. We'll get there. All right. Okay. So now I'm going to put on the board how the pieces move. That's what we want to work on now, how the pieces move, okay? Now, this is the thing. It's going to take some practice. So if you have a chessboard at home, great. And if you don't, still okay, but you probably should get a chessboard at some point. They're very inexpensive. You can pay whatever you want to pay on a chess set. I've seen them as low as $12, so it's up to you what you want to spend on a chess set. But you can get a chess set, and sometimes it might not even come with the chess notations on them. All right, it might just be a regular board, but that's okay. All right. So now since we got into piece identification and taking a look at this chessboard, I want to show you how the pieces move. Now, you got pieces that move diagonally. And you have pieces that move side to side, right? And you have a piece that moves in an L formation, all right? Excuse me there. All right. So now what I'm going to do is, let's see if I can move this to the side. Okay, I can move that there. All right, great. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how the king moves, right? So your king would start here, right? Your opponent's king would be here. These are the two most important pieces on a chessboard, and they're supposed to be protected at all times because your opponent is making plans to come after your king, okay? So there's ways that you can protect it, but it is the most important piece. Now, the way the king moves, it can move in any direction, one square at a time. One square at a time, okay? So let's say I made a move. Let's say I'm playing the white pieces, and I just want you to, I want to share with you before I even get started any further. What we're seeing right now is a drawed game. Nobody would have won this game. Let's say I was playing you a chess game and only thing that is left on the board is the kings. I captured all of your pieces. You captured all of my pieces. This is what it would look like, and it's a draw. Nobody would win, okay? In chess, when somebody makes a mistake, then you can capitalize on that mistake, and then that's how you can get to your opponent's king. But I just wanted to share with you, if you ever playing a game and you capture all of your opponent's pieces and your opponent captures all of your pieces, it's a draw. You can just start all over again, okay? So now I'm going to show you how the kings can capture pieces too. So in chess, you're going to capture pieces when you can, and you're going to defend your pieces when you can, okay? So it's a lot of attack and defense that is going on the board, lots of strategy, okay? So kings can only move one square at a time in any direction. So let's say I wanted to go here to F2, all right? Now it's my opponent's move. Let's say he or she wants to go to D7. Fine, no problem. Let's say I go to E3. My opponent goes to E6. Let's say now I go to E4. Okay, now I'm going to show you why, when there's just two kings on the board, why is it a draw? And the reason why, and the reason being is kings cannot attack one another. There will always be one square in between two kings. So if you were playing the black king right now, you will never, ever see this move in chess. That's not a legal move. There always has to, because that would be your king is attacking my king, and kings don't attack each other in chess. So there always has to be an empty square in between them, whether it's diagonal to it or horizontal. It's always going to be that way. So this king would have to move to the side, right? Just the same rule. I can't move here. I can't move there. That's not a legal move. So I can move here. So you could do this until next year sometime. All right. Because kings cannot attack themselves. All right. Okay. Now, can kings capture pieces? Yes, they can. All right. Your king can be a fighting king, because sometimes there's 3 stages in a chess game, right? And one of the last stages is called the end game. So you might only have a king and a few pawns and another piece or something like that. And now your king really gets active in the game. Your king will never get active in the beginning of the game, because it makes it so easy for your opponent to come out and attack it with all those 16 pieces, right? So that's how the pieces move, the kings move. They can go any direction, horizontal, vertical, diagonal, all right? Let's say I had a knight here, and you're playing the black king. You're playing the black pieces, right? And let's say it's your turn to move. A lot of times in chess, the way the pieces are, it just automatically just, whose move is it? So if it's your move, you can attack. If it's your move, you can defend. So if it's your move now, this is how we capture in chess. We move our piece over our opponent's piece and take over that square and their piece and put it to the side of the board. That's what a capture looks like in chess, right? Let's say this pawn is yours, and this is my king on B5, and your pawn is on B6, and it's my turn. I just move it over and capture the pawn. So you use your piece to replace your opponent's piece. That's how we capture. All right? Okay. Does anybody have any questions about the king? right? Okay, that's all you got to remember about the king. Most important piece, must be protected at all times. You might have to use it at the end part of the game. Okay. All right. So, oh, I like that arrow there. Okay. So now let's take a look at the queens. Okay. Now the queens move very similar to the king. They can go in any direction like the king, but it can cover the entire board if need be. All right. So right now, my queen on D1 is facing your queen on D8. And they're both attacking each other because they can move in. I'll show you. Hold on for a second. Let me show you how they move, right? So let's say it's my turn, right? I can move my queen diagonally as far as I want it to. It's very fast piece, right? So I can move it over here. See that? You can move your queen here, well, right here, right? Now, you are the telescope for your pieces. You know, when you look through a telescope, you can see a target of whatever it is that you're looking for, right? So the basically in chess, when it comes to attacking pieces, if your opponent's pieces line up with your pieces on this chessboard, somewhere on this chessboard, whether it is horizontal, whether it is diagonal, you can capture it, or vertical. So let's say this is your queen right here on D2. If I moved my queen to D5, now it's your turn. So you could just take my queen. See that? That's how they capture, and that's how they move. They can move the full length of the board. I can move to A1 from here. I can move to H8 from there. See that? I can go one square if I want to go to. I can go 1, 2. I can go 1, 2, 3, 4 if I want, right? Providing that there's no other piece in front of it, okay? Let's say if this was a pawn here. I cannot jump over that pawn. If I want to go diagonal on the light colored square, I can go there to E4, right? And then I would have to wait for my opponent to move. Then I could move to E6. And now I can access going over to C6. And now I have this control of that. All right. So let me show you.
Ask a question.
Sure, go right ahead.
In that scenario where the king was
Oh, I mean queen? Do you
the
mean queen?
Yes, it was right next to the pawn. And when the pawn's turn, could the pawn take the queen?
No, because you can't take your own pieces. No, that can't happen. Let's say if
No,
this
there
was
was
here.
the previous scenario was the pawn and the black pawn and the white queen were next to each other.
Oh, sure. It all depends on whose move it is. So if it was like this, you said it was the white queen, right?
Yes, and the black pawn was right next to it.
Okay. It all depends on whose move it is, right?
If the
So
queen
if
just
it's,
moves there and the pawn's turn could take it.
well, let's say if it's the queen's turn, all right? Yes, if it's white to move here, yes, right there. Oop, just like that. Just pick up your queen, capture your opponent's piece, and you drop your piece right where your opponent's piece was. You replace your opponent's piece with your piece.
Thank you.
Welcome, welcome, thank you. Thank you. I want you to see when a queen is in the center of the board, it covers a lot of ground. So when you're looking at a chessboard and you're looking at your pieces, I want you to see that diagonal? If any of your opponent's pieces land on that diagonal, you can go after those pieces, right? Let's say there was a rook here. Whoops. Showing you the power of the queen. This queen has total control right now of A8, B7, C6, D5, E4, F3, G2, H1. It also has control over, because it can move vertical, diagonal, and horizontal. So it has control over this square, these squares. See what kind of power a queen has? And this diagonal here. So when I say that you basically, your pieces have a telescope, is the direction that they move in. If you see your opponent moves in line with them, like this rook here, right? Poor rook. That queen is covering a lot of territory. Am I correct?
Yes.
So if this rook decided to go here, you say to yourself, you look at your pieces and say, okay, I know my queen can go diagonally. I know it can go from side to side. I know it can go up and down. And you say to yourself, oh, look at that. That rook is in the pathway of my queen because my queen has control over that diagonal. Your queen can come over and take that rook. See that? Let's say if it was a bishop over here, right? I want to attack this bishop. I can't do this. I have to stay on the diagonal that I am. If I want to go to a different diagonal, go to a different square, right? So now, let's say I want to attack this bishop here. I could go right here. Now it's up to my opponent. Do they want to move their bishop or out of the way? Right? So let's say your opponent did something different, didn't move that bishop. On your next turn, you can capture it. See that? Or let's say my queen, it all depends on whose turn it is to move. If you're playing the black pieces right now and I'm playing the white pieces, bye-bye for my queen, it's gone. Because there's no way in the world you're gonna allow your opponent to keep their most powerful piece when you can capture it. So you could take me, right? You could take my queen, right? Now, if it's my turn, I can capture that bishop. See? So the queen and the king move similar, but the queen is much more faster and has much more, controls much more area. All right? I have a question for you guys. Could my queen capture this knight here on B8? In one move?
No.
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 It's not
That's right.
together.
You're
No.
absolutely right. You're absolutely right. Now, look how, where my queen is, look how many different areas now, if it's my turn, how I could attack that knight.
Just go up one.
Well, I could go up 2, right? And then I could attack it diagonally, right?
Oh, can you go up the same aisle with the knight?
I can go all the way up.
Up here.
See that?
Right.
Now I'm attacking the knight, right?
Providing there's nobody between the queen and the knight?
Right, exactly, exactly. So let's say we had something like this. Well, it doesn't make sense for me to go here because I'm still not attacking the knight, right?
No.
So here's the strategy. I can go here though, look at that. I'm attacking the knight now.
But when
Or
it-
I can go here. See that? That's if I have the knight as my target. See that? So your pieces, always remember, the queen is like, it moves like a compass. Diagonally, horizontal, vertical, and you can move your pieces to actually attack one of your opponent's pieces, right? I'll show you something. Let's say, let's take this knight off. Whoops. Let's say opponent's king is on the board, right? Let's pretend that my king is somewhere on the board, right? I can put the king in check. Now, what do I mean by putting the king in check? Anytime any of your pieces attack your opponent's king, we call it check. All right, so that lets your opponent know your king is in danger. You have to move it out of check. So let's say I moved my queen from F2 to B2. Because now my queen controls all of these squares. This king is now in check. And the rule is the king must move out of check. And if it can't move out of check, then it's checkmate. Okay? So this king could move somewhere here. It could move over here, right? It can move behind the pawn. Good spot for it, right? Now, my queen on B2 could go, because it's so fast and controls so much area. Look at that. I put the king back in check again. The king has to get out of check. See that? So I just wanted to use that example to show you the power of the queen. The queen is the most powerful piece. Now, you could still win a chess game. You might play chess with a friend and lose your queen, and you still can wind up winning a game. So you don't have to feel bad if you lost your queen. It doesn't mean game over. Oh my God. Game over. It doesn't mean that. Okay. All right. Now I'm going to go on to the rook. Let's go on. Oh, do we have anybody have any questions on the queen?
It's all- Do we raise our hand?
Sure. I mean, you don't have to raise your hand. You can talk. You can just share.
I don't want to talk over somebody, interrupt them. It's
Okay.
all, but it all goes back to predicating if the angle of your direction is not filled with other pieces.
Right.
Okay.
Right. So let's do this. Let's say we had, oops. Let's say we have this, this. All right. My queen. Can anybody tell me what piece is my queen attacking right now?
The rook.
The rook.
Castle?
Absolutely right.
The rook.
The rook. I'm not attacking the knight yet.
Because the
Because the
castle's
rook
away.
on that diagonal is in front of it. So I am right now attacking that rook. I'm attacking the rook. Now, show you something in chess. Let's say your opponent was to move the knight away. Now it's your turn. Can you capture that rook?
Yeah, it's safe.
Yes, yes,
nothing
you
around.
absolutely can. You absolutely can, because your opponent made their move. Now you're going to make your move. Boom. See that? So when you capture pieces, you make it less likely, you make it more difficult that your opponent will be able to launch an attack against you. So you definitely want to, you're not going to get checkmate in one move most of the times, right? But if you're capturing your opponent's pieces, it's going to make it a lot easier. Going to make it a lot easier, all right? And be nice to your opponent, Okay. All right. So now we know how the queen moves. Excuse me. We know how the queen moves. And so now we're going to go to the rook. All right. We're going to go to the rook. All right. Okay. All right. That's my wife's cell phone, happened to be in the room that I'm in. These things happen. Okay. All right. So how does the rook move? Very simple, very easy. The rook moves vertical and horizontal. So it moves like a cross, right? So this rook, if any of your opponent's pieces falls on any of these squares, your rook can go after it. See that? So the rooks move side to side, up and down. Okay. Let's say this rook here on b7, and knowing now that the rook has control over the entire fifth rank, and it has control over the E file. If this rook finds itself on any of those squares, you can capture it. So let's say I said, okay, I'm playing against you guys. I'm saying, all right, I'm going to put my rook on B5. Your rook just slides over and captures my rook. See that? Boom. Just like that. Just that simple. Doesn't matter if it's a pawn. It all depends on whose turn it is to move, right? Let's say this pawn moved, right? Let's say it's not our turn. This is our rook. It's not our turn. Pawn moves down, right? We want to capture that pawn. If we want to capture that pawn and we keep doing that, moving down, the pawn's just going to keep moving, right? Look at that. Go here, goes there, right? But there's a better, this is the strategy about chess. Let's say it's your opponent's turn to move. Let's say you have the rook. I have the pawn. It's my turn. I'm moving down the board. The way this rook would stop that pawn, just move right here. See? Because now that rook has control of that file, the G file. So if your opponent says, oh, I'm going to try and get away from you, Now you just take your rook and take their pawn. See that? Very easy. This is what you, only thing you need to know about rooks is they never travel diagonally. Never. All right, so.
I have a question, if
Go
I can
right
ask.
ahead. Go right
Okay,
ahead.
so up until this point, it seems like the pieces, whatever color it was, it always stayed on that color square on the board. But now I noticed with this last game, your rook was on like a white square, even though it was black. Are there any rules as far as like what color the square has to be? Does that make sense?
You know what? Because all of the pieces move differently, they will access all of these different squares. There's only one piece, and we'll get there. There's only one piece that when it moves to an opposite color square, and that's the knight. And that's how you know if you're moving the knight properly. Because if a knight started on a dark square, it's always going to end up on a light colored square. If it starts on a light colored square, it's always going to end up on a dark colored square.
Okay.
But that's something that you don't really have to remember. But it's just a little guide to help you when we get to the knights, how the knights move, because the knights move differently than any other piece on the chessboard.
Okay, thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. You're welcome. You're welcome. Yeah. So this rook here is controlling. All right, so what rank is my rook? Anybody can tell me what rank where this rook is on G2.
Second one.
What rank is it controlling the squares on?
One rank,
Yes.
G.
You talked about rank. Are you talking about a second rank?
Now remember, the rank moves horizontal. The file moves vertically. So if this knight is on G2, what rank is it controlling right now?
No, two.
2, yes, rank 2, absolutely.
Rank is
It's controlling. Remember, the ranks move they move horizontal. It's on that rook is on the second rank. It's on the G file, but it's on the second rank. See that?
I said.
Right? Okay. All right. So now if I was to say to you, what file is that rook controlling now? Oh, I can't, Ron, I hear you moving your mouth. I can't.
G file.
The G file, right?
G file.
Yes. It's controlling this as well. Look at that. All these squares that rook can move to. And if your opponent's piece finds if your opponent's pieces find their piece on one of those squares, you can capture it, right? So let's say if a queen was here, right? And let's say the queen moved on the G file where our rook is. Our rook can capture that. Look at that. Boom. By queen. Just as simple as that.
If everything is, all the spaces are empty.
Yes. Yes. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Well, why would anyone move their piece into a spot where it's empty? You're
That
only
is
gonna-
the holy grail of chess, what you just said.
that big dumb.
Because it happens. Because notice, we're only going through the pieces one piece at a time. But when we put all the pieces on the board and you have to visually check where what square you want to place a piece on, and then you got to say, is it safe to place that piece on that square? That's the whole entire answer to your question. Because
Thank you.
you're going to have fun. I'm telling you, you're going to have fun. You're going to have fun. So, okay. So the rook moves side to side. It can travel side to side, up and down. That's how the rooks move. It can go one square at a time if it wants to, right? Right, if this pawn was in front of it, it cannot go past that pawn. It would have to step aside, all right? Then when it's its turn, it can go there, right? Whoops, sorry, excuse me. Then it can go there, okay? All right? Your opponent makes a move, you make a move. Your opponent makes a move, you make a move, right? Okay. Right? Sometimes you'll see something like this, doubled up pawns. This rook can't go through, this rook cannot jump over those two pawns. It can only go here, right? Then it would have to wait its turn. The opponent moves, then it'd have to wait again, its turn, and then it can go over here, then access those, okay? All right. All right. Any questions on the rook, on how the rook moves? Side to side, up and down, all right? Okay, the bishops. Okay. Now, Florence, I think this will help you with your question that you asked me about the different colors. Perfect example, bishops. The bishops that you see, we refer to this bishop here. Even though you're playing the white pieces, we refer to this bishop as a dark square bishop, right?
Because it's on a dark square.
Right, because it can only capture your opponent's pieces on the dark squares.
Okay.
And it can only protect your pieces that land on the dark squares, okay? Right?
Mhm.
So that's basically sharing with you from this starting point here, where it could travel, all right? They move diagonally. Bishops move diagonally. They don't move any other way. So when you start the board, when you start a game of chess, you're going to have a bishop that's on a light color square, right? They can, throughout the entire game, they can only attack your opponent's pieces that land on the light colored squares, right? For the dark square bishops, they can only attack and capture your opponent's pieces and protect their own pieces that land on the dark squares, okay? All right, so if I was to move this bishop to h3, and remember how the pieces travel, that's how they can attack and capture, all right? So if I was to make this move, this bishop goes to h3, can anybody tell me what bishop am I attacking?
8C?
C8,
Yeah.
right, C8,
Yeah.
correct. C8, yes.
Oh, you say the letters first.
Yes,
Then the number.
yes, you say the letter, you say the file first, and then you say the rank second,
Okay.
all right? So I just moved my bishop to h3. Yes, this bishop is attacking the c8 bishop. But guess what? Now it's my opponent's turn. So that wasn't a very good move of mine. That was a very good move because now my opponent with their light square bishop can come down and capture my bishop. You see that? Right? All right. How about, this is my bishop. My bishop is on f8. Let's say if I moved it to h6, and you're playing the white pieces. Was that a good move by Coach Ulysses? Right, Vicky, you're absolutely right. That is it.
Because the white will go right up and get it.
Yes, yes, yes. So, Florence, if this is your bishop right here, you would just go right up on that diagonal
And capture
and
them,
capture it, right?
providing there was nothing in the way.
Providing that there was nothing in the way. Excellent, excellent. So now you know that if you're left with bishops of an opposite color, these bishops cancel each other out. They can never attack each other, never. One will always stay on the dark squares. One will always stay on the light color squares. Okay. Any questions about the bishops? All you got to remember is they move diagonal. And when you set up the board, you're going to have one bishop on a dark square, and you're going to have one bishop on a light color square, right? Depending on what bishop it is. It can only protect, this bishop here can only protect and capture your opponent's pieces that land on dark squares, right? This bishop can only protect your pieces, because in chess, sometimes you got to use pieces to protect other pieces, all right? But that's not going to be in this lesson. This bishop can attack or capture or protect his or her pieces that land on the white colored squares. All right. So now we got time. Thank God we got time for the knight. Okay. All right. Now, and I'm glad I got just a few minutes to teach you about the knight, because that's what we need. And I got to show you the pawns too. So I'm going to do this rather quickly. The knight moves in an L formation. You might want to write that down. The knight moves in an L formation. The knight can jump over pieces. It's the only piece that can jump over pieces. This is the piece that when you buy your chessboard, you're going to want to practice with, okay? Now, I'm going to show you how the knight moves, right? So if this knight is in the center of the board, it moves this way. 1, 2, over to the right or over to the left. See that? It can go either way. I can move this knight. 1, 2, hook. See that? I'll bring it back to the center of the board. I could move it 1, 2, hook to the right. Right? I can do an upside down L. 1 over, 2 down. I can do an upside down L the other side. 1 over, 2 down. Okay? Notice, when I move this knight, it started on a light colored square. It's always going to go to a dark colored square. When it goes to a dark colored square, I'll show you that it's going to go to a light one, right? See? 1, 2, over. Right? So now what I'll do is I'll highlight all this different squares that it can go to. It can go to 8. It can go to the D6. It could go to F6. It could go to G5. It could go to G3 or F2 or D2 or C3 or C5. All right, if you want to take a picture of that with your phone.
You said something about, I saw record, this is being recorded. Is there any?
Yes, so, yes, okay, so you can go back, that's true. Thank you, Florence, it is being recorded, so you can go back and take a look. That is how the knight moves. So if there was a piece, and if it was your turn, this knight can take that knight, see that? If there was a queen here, this knight can capture that queen. 1, 2, hook up. See that? If it was a bishop here, the knight can come down. 1, 2, over. See that? So I want to do that, show you all the squares. There we go. That's how the knight moves. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Knights are they're most effective in the center of the board because they cover a lot of ground. If there was a pawn here and your opponent's rook was here, knights can jump over pieces. It can jump right over that pawn, 1, 2, and take that rook. See
So,
that?
is that the only one that can go if there's a blockage?
No, all the knights can jump over pieces.
No, I'm talking about the queen and the king, and they need a clear avenue to get to that.
Yes. Your pieces are going to need you to move pawns out of the way so that they can move freely. But the knights can jump right in the game right from the beginning of the game. The knight is the first piece, can just jump right into the game. Pawns are not considered pieces. They're considered pawns, right?
Gotcha.
Bishops, knights, rooks, queen, king, those are pieces. All right, so you're going to want to practice with your knight. You're going to want to practice with your knight. So the last piece, I think I got a minute to show you. I might have a minute, okay. Are the pawns. Right? Now pawns, they're like soldiers, right? They're going to help you protect your king. They're going to help you protect your pieces, right? And they help you to gain territory into your opponent's territory, okay? So that's what they're used for, right? So this is the point of origin when you set up your board. If you're playing the white pieces, the pawns will all be on the same row, rank, on rank 2. If you're playing the black pieces, they will be on rank 7, right? And the way they move is either 1 square forward from their starting point, or 2. It's up to you. Now, this pawn can no longer go 2 squares up again. It can only begin advancing 1 square at a time. So let's say if our opponent moved their pawn up 2 squares. These two pawns are now blocked. Very easy to stop a pawn directly in front of it. That's how you stop pawns, directly in front of it, okay? Now, how does a pawn capture? Diagonally. So if I was to move this pawn here, and this is your pawn on D7, your pawn now can capture my pawn. That's how the pawns move. So let's say I decided to move this pawn here. And you decided to move this pawn here. Well, we call this doubled up pawns. Doesn't help your pawn structure, but I can, whoops, ooh, oh, I don't know how that happened. I don't know how that happened. I could, if you moved your pawn from here to here, I can now capture it because that's how pawns capture. So anything that comes directly diagonal to a pawn, that's how the pawn bites. That's how it captures pieces. If I did this, your pawn could take my pawn, right? But it's my turn now, right? So now I could take your pawn because it's diagonal to it. See that? And that's our introduction today.
How do we access this lesson? You said it's recorded.
Right. I believe Gilda will be able to help us in that area.
Yes.
But I want to say this. I hope you enjoyed our first introduction to chess. It was a lot of material. We went through a lot of material. So it takes time. You have to practice with these pieces on how they move. I definitely recommend looking at the video again and going over it with your board and one piece at a time. And then when we have our next session, we'll get more involved. But the most important thing is learning how the pieces move. That's the most important thing.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. It was great.
My pleasure,
Excellent.
my pleasure, my pleasure. I hope you got something out of this today.
Yeah.
A lot, a lot.
Yeah, except that I missed introduction to how the king moves. I had issues with my battery.
Oh, the king, you said the king?
Yeah, I missed it.
Oh, okay. The king moves one, it can move it can go in any direction, but it can only move one square at a time. So the king is very slow. The king is very slow. It can only move one square at a time, diagonally, horizontally, and vertically.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
Well, thank you, everyone. You know, this is our first introduction to chess. I hope you enjoy it. We will, I recorded this lesson, and we will have it in our YouTube channel. I don't know if you subscribe to the Middle Country Public Library YouTube channel. If you go into YouTube, you just type in Middle Country Public Library, and you can see previous programs. You can see previous programs. You can see cooking programs. You can see crafts. You can see story times. You can see a few of the concerts.
That
So
was YouTube?
on YouTube, yes, under Middle Country Public Library.
Gotcha.
Okay, so please give us 2 days to 3 days, and we'll put it up.
All right.
All right.
And what will the next
Okay.
lesson? When will the next lesson be?
The next lesson, I think we don't have anything in August, but we have another one we have 2 in September.
All right.
All right.
All right. But nothing over the summer.
Not now. No, not in August. You know, we have been planning, and as you know, we had changes. We all know that now we're doing in-person programs. So hopefully we can bring this back in person or keep doing it on Zoom, because on Zoom seems to work very well.
All right.
All right.
Thank you very much.
And if you have any suggestions, you can always email me. I'll put my email here. Let me just see. This is my email.
Yes, and email Gilda, and if I'm doing something, where I'm doing a teaching forum, because sometimes I do Facebook Live teaching, and I will be able to, you might be able to come on in on one of those sessions.
Excellent.
But Gilda, the next one is September the 16th and September the 23rd.
Yes.
All right.
So in that time, all you got to do is just practice how the pieces move. That's it.
All right.
Are the next couple of classes in September going to follow up on top of what we learned today? Or is it gonna
Yes.
be a repeat. So we're going to move on.
We're going to move on.
Okay, good. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. You're
Yes,
welcome.
September 16 and September 23rd.
Thanks for coming out. Thanks for coming on Zoom with us today.
Thank you, everyone. Enjoy the rest of the day and let's keep practicing.
Yes.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, Ulysses. Thank you,
Bye-bye.
everyone.
Thank
Have a good
you.
day. Bye-bye.